Following content may not be suitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Statistically, women experience sexual abuse more than men. According to the CDC, 1 in 5 women will experience rape or attempted rape.
That's a very different story for men. That statistic becomes 1 out of every 38. One of them right here in North Alabama, and he is telling his story 40 years after his assault.
But she sat down and she made photo albums for each kid.
Randy Gautreau is 56 years old. He looks back at his childhood as a happy one. A loving mother, a caring father, a very special big brother. What he shares with that brother, though, it's something he wishes he could forget.
It's a very violent act. There were like 4 guys teenagers from another neighborhood, and they would come over and kind of single us out. And they got my brother too.
At just 4 years old.
There were 2 places that these attacks would happen, and they would just single one of us out at a time.
A forgotten rape for 40 years.
I go back in these episodes to where I go back as that 4-year-old, but I'm thrown back into that, like immediately I'm thrown back into where these acts are happening with these guys holding you down and stuff like that.
Gautreau suffers from dissociative identity disorder, a form of multiple personalities disorder. In plain terms, he has flashbacks, and at their worst, they're happening every day. But now, fortunately, they're more manageable. They happen maybe once a month. And these flashbacks are ones that bring him back in time to relive the pain of his own rape.
I always thought that kid was another kid, but it's a projection of you over there. You get yourself outside of your body to kind of go through it. So the other kid is me, pretty much. It's just so violent. And I think that's why it's so important to kind of speak up about it. The first bite sends pain from my small backside.
From the time of that rape in the late 1960s to 2010, Gautreau was unaware that it had even happened. Such a violent act, his brain suppressed it. But in 2010, 40 years after the assault, it was a conversation with his brother that brought it all back.
I finally kind of put stuff together. So I called my brother one night, and I was just distraught. And I told him, I said, I want to ask you some questions. And kind of yes or no's, but not too detailed. I'll never forget it, because at the end of the conversation, he said, I was hoping they didn't get to you.
A period of severe depression followed. He even came close to committing suicide, all because of one new, fresh, horrible memory.
The thing about the house was the mattress, because you're pressed down in that mattress and you're having trouble breathing.
Years of therapy, tough conversations, and self-realization later, it all led to a new Randy Gautreau, one that helps others, so that stories like his become a thing of the past, and another child doesn't have to go through that same pain.
People are going to be so aware of what's going on right now.
At the time of his rape, the National Children's Advocacy Center wasn't even an idea. For Gautreau, knowing that a resource of this magnitude is here now, it brings him comfort. Comfort in knowing that stories like his can one day only be told in the past tense. Even though Gautreau didn't get justice in his case, he says he's happy. Happy knowing that the system improved and criminals like the ones in his case are more likely to be caught.
And when sex abuse victims do come forward, it's important that they tell the truth when they tell their story. But honesty is a two-way street. Lawyers have to be upfront with those victims about the likelihood of a conviction.
I'll never forget sitting in court, and I'll never forget a mom's face.
In investigator Priscilla Paget's office, a local paper is pinned to her wall. On the front page, an indictment of a former Fort Payne teacher recently convicted of sex crimes involving his students.
He had 9 victims.
He has a twin brother who was also a teacher and involved with similar crimes.
twin that made a deal this week, there was one victim, a female. This one's victims were all male.
Paget says they both made a plea deal, resulting in less jail time. But any jail time is a victory for investigators and prosecutors.
Child abuse in general is a Class C felony. They're not going to go to prison for life.
Gabrielle Helix is a domestic violence resource prosecutor for the Alabama Office of Prosecution Services. She helps all 41 district attorneys' offices in her state. Previously, she was an assistant DA in Madison County working with the NCAC.
When you are isolating, grooming, coercion, intimidating your victim to the point that it's not a bar fight because they can't fight back, you have this uneven balance of power, and to me that is the most offensive crime in the justice system.
Still, Helix respects the justice system and says she has to be realistic with each family.
As a mother, if someone hurt my child, I'd want them under the jail. Well, under the jail is not a punishment that we have, but they're not going to get life. And so it's managing those expectations.
And even if it feels like there's evidence, it still may not be enough to win over a jury.
So we have to get a case beyond a reasonable doubt, which is we have to worry about, is it with admissible evidence? We may have a lot of evidence, but not all of it could be admissible.
But for some victims, the priority may be focused on getting the child to safety. Someone like Kenney Tinker, a teenager living with her aunt, Sonia Clemens, in DeKalb County, away from her accused abusers, who she says is her own mother and father.
When I would go to school, I didn't ever really know what was going to happen when I came home.
Tinker says since she could remember, her parents were physically and emotionally abusing her. When she was 11, her aunt and grandmother caught on.
You don't have to be the parent to pick up on that. You just have to watch the child's emotions.
They discovered bruising on Tinker's body, took photos, and went to the police.
When you take a board that you have made and you whip a child, if you want to call it whipping, and they admitted that she would get 25 plus licks multiple times a day. She could have got 100 licks a day. That is nothing but child abuse.
The parents were charged with domestic violence in the 3rd degree, a misdemeanor. DHR placed Tinker with her aunt and uncle in December of 2019. She felt free.
She's not the same child that she was. She knows now she's loved. She knows how to be clean. She knows how to hold herself. She knows that we're proud of her.
And now she has dreams.
I see a future, actually, now, more than what I did.
She wants to go to college. She wants to be a veterinarian. She told me yesterday if she couldn't be a vet that she wanted to be she loves to do hair.
This is my makeup / hair.
And during these past several years, Tinker has been healing. She loves volleyball, doing her hair, making straight A's, and hanging out with friends. She finally feels at home, asking her aunt and uncle to legally adopt her, a couple who never planned on having kids of their own, but have no regrets saving this bright young girl.
Couldn't thank him enough, honestly.
We just want her to know that she's loved. She'll never be abused. You know, as long as my husband and I are alive, she'll never be abused.
An important part of a child's journey after abuse happens in a room like this.
Yeah, coming up, the importance of therapy and how it's helping survivors find hope.